This half hour being brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf. Online, sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, best in new inventory. Great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. Terrific service department. Quick lane, routine inspections, difficult to handle it all. At Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Great to be joined by the Scotty Scheffler of the region, the outstanding Nate Bauer, sir. Welcome.
Wow. What an intro. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Great to see you today, by the way. So,
of course. Always an exciting occasion on a Monday afternoon James Franklin press conference.
So let me ask you something from a business point of view. What's better for business? Continued winning or what happened on Saturday?
Oh, boy. That's a tough one. I think continued winning, honestly. There's a buildup of excitement. I would say this. Look, the reality of the expanded playoff, certainly, I've spent the last 36 hours buried in the bunker with Penn State fans, right? And I think
can I interrupt for a second? Can I interrupt for a second? So in other words, you're saying I'm the first sane person you've talked to in 36 hours?
You know what? My wife and kids, they count a little bit, but yes, you were the first Penn State adjacent adult that I've spoken to that is feeling like undeterred. So no, there was a settling down period. Certainly, there were a lot of people upset, but I think that the expanded playoff allows for a perspective on this that is less, necessarily reactionary, right? Look, we have entered the, this as well as anybody, we have entered the age in which the only solution ever for any setback of any variety is to fire everyone.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Fire the head coach, fire position coaches, fire the athletic directors. Anybody who is any association must lose their job.
Broadcaster.
And what's that?
Broadcaster.
Broadcaster, yeah, play-by-play.
Absolutely.
Gotta go.
I'm out.
And so I think there has been, certainly you saw some of those reactions from the national media, but it's very strange. There's an inverse phenomena happening where locally there is a better grasp now of where Penn State football sits in terms of its consistency, its success, in the national college football landscape than even some national perspectives. Like it has flipped to where people understand, hey, James Franklin's guidance and stewardship of the Penn State football program has been exceptionally good for Penn State. Is it where Penn State wants it to be? Is it where James Franklin wants it to be? Is that the result anybody wanted within that football program? Of course not. But there is still something to play for, and still something that, this is a program and a team that very much has an opportunity ahead of it if it handles its business moving forward.
But how quickly was that realized by those who are so, by those who are so passionate? I mean, because look, these people are passionate, so I got that part, right? And you can't have a great program unless you get passionate fans. So I appreciate the passion. How quickly did the gut-wrenching of it and the passion of that, how long did it take to get to the realistic part? Now, wait a minute, it's not over.
Yeah, I think it took until yesterday afternoon, honestly. Look, it's the 7 stages of grief. You got to walk them through it. And I think I've carved out a little bit of a niche for myself as what I hope to be a voice of reason, right? Acknowledging shortcomings and acknowledging the good things, right? Just kind of trying to lay out the way things are in reality more so than in the minds of reactionary opinions, right? I'm not a take guy. That's not what I do. And so we kind of held hands and walked through it on Sunday afternoon, talking about all the 50,000-foot view of Pat Kraft and Neely Bendapudi and Matt Schuyler and all of the different people that have created an atmosphere for success for Penn State football that didn't really exist previously. And so this specific instance is not the result that reflects all of the work that has gone into this, but does not deter the overall effort. Right, there are still things about Penn State football that are very much worthy of the optimism that certainly James Franklin has, and all of the people that are working tirelessly to get this program on the level that it needs to be. The issue is it is imperative, right, on James Franklin and his staff and the players, everybody involved, to actually get those results to reflect that effort. And I think that this afternoon at his press conference, he made that pretty painfully clear, right? They are past the time of, hey, you played them close, that you can put a feather in your cap for playing them close. That's over. That's over. They got to win these games. They had an opportunity to do it. They didn't in a particularly painful way. If they had lost by 20, it's a different conversation today. But instead, you lost being stood up at the goal line with 4 chances. So it is what it is.
You lost by 6 yards. 3 yards in the end of the first half and 3 yards in the fourth quarter.
Yep, no doubt.
Yeah, it's 27-20. You find the 6 yards. And you've got to be able to find the 6 yards. I mean, that's part. You got to find them, and they didn't find them.
You gotta lose limbs, right? Like it is, and it's easy for me to say from the comfort of my couch, right? But there was too much effort, and I hate bringing money into it, but like too much money spent, too much brain power, too many smart people, and too much physical effort, all culminating in that moment to fall short in that moment. That's the reality. Andy Kotelnicki came to Penn State to cash in that moment. Right, Katron out, the offensive line, all of the things that the offensive line has done to get itself at a better spot as a unit over the past 4 years, right? Phil Troutline's work, you name it. All of that stuff. Too much went into it to come out empty in those spots.
Okay, so his reaction at the press conference, I know it did. He would have loved to have talked about Washington, but that wasn't going to be part of the press conference. What did you think of his answers?
I thought he was excellent. Honestly, I thought that his ability to really dig. He wasn't dismissive of anything. Right? There weren't any questions today that he just shed and said, I don't want to talk about it. I'm not going to get into it. Like he dove into the pain in a lot of ways. Right? I mean, just the whole, it was almost, I think, cathartic to him to have that opportunity to clarify and talk through everything that went into that game, right? Because, and this is the reality here, did it come down to a handful of plays? Yes. That's true of both sides,
Yep.
Will Howard's fumble, right? How improbable to fumble through the back of the end zone, right before stepping out of bounds. I mean, the replay reviews, the penalties, all of these different, right? I mean, honestly, for the Ohio State cornerback, even as it's Trey Wallace's responsibility to catch that pass, to come away with an interception in that situation, there was just so much to digest, and he really dove into a lot of it, to all of it. And I think my major takeaway is it is a thing for Penn State football under James Franklin, like undeniable. There's a lot of other stuff that is kind of dumb, right? Records against top 5 teams is just a dumb stat. It takes no thought. It's eye candy for haters. But losses after the first loss of the season, that's real.
That's real.
So,
that's very real.
That is very real. It is painful, and it is something that Penn State has had a really tough time with under James Franklin. And his digestion of the players' response, how those guys got through it and talked about it, the way that they broke down the game in the media room afterwards, I think showed from his perspective, it reflected positivity. There was a good vibe of people being willing to engage with their shortcomings, not pointing fingers at each other. There was plenty of opportunity for the defense to say, we did our job, they didn't do theirs. And you didn't see that. You didn't hear that after that game. So I think it could be an interesting week here.
You know, it was interesting, though, because, look, obviously I have a much greater opportunity to talk to players one-on-one in just conversation. And in talking to a couple of the players last night, they said the same thing that was said to you guys in the press conference. We're going to see this team again. All right.
Right.
You know, the fact that they believe that, I think, is important. Now they got to go out this week and they've got to start the pathway to making it happen against a very good team.
Yeah, I think, and there has been a lot of assumption being made by the fan base that the next 4 weeks are a cakewalk, right? Penn State's not going to see exactly, like Penn State's not going to see a team with a ranking next to its name over the next 4 weeks, and so therefore Penn State should just march through that the rest of the schedule. Nope, no. not accurate. Minnesota is no joke.
They're good.
That game is on the road. Washington is playing good football, has been playing good football, and has an opportunity. The time change is, right, they don't have to play at 9 a.m. West Coast. This is going to be a night game. They're going to be ready. All of that time change difference is going to be mitigated based on those circumstances. So if Penn State does not shake off its issues and make actual improvements, right? Forget all the soft sciences stuff. They need to be a better football team in execution and performance than they were on Saturday. Because if they're not, they will lose this game.
Right. It's a good quarterback. It's a good running back. And Coleman's a really good running back. Rogers is very good. Boston, Latu, the wide receiver tight end combo. Bruner on defense, Carson Bruner. Now, that's a football player. Every team would love to have that guy. I mean, would love to have that guy. So they've got players, without question. For you, if they were to win on Saturday night, mentally, what does that do? Because you just talked about can't make one loss be two.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. It is. Again, it's imperative. They have to get through these next 4 games to do what they intended to do at the start of this season. I think that if they can put a good performance together, obviously win. Like, I think it doesn't have to be a blowout.
Just one.
But bottom line, you got to win, and then just playing better, right?
Yeah.
Getting yourself into fewer third and long situations offensively, getting off the field defensively in third and long situations, right? All of those things. I mean, again, like unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, that kind of stuff. Like if you can take strides in getting the running game going, right? This offense is. I'm not going to call it a mess, but it's not great, right? It hasn't been great for a few weeks. And so finding some stability, I do think is important for these guys moving forward.
Yeah, can I ask you about the Reed one's an obvious, you can't take your helmet off. Here's the issue I have with the Elliott Washington play. All right. And I realize if you're going to go technically by the letter of the law, but to me, that's a feel for the game thing by the official. Because I did talk to people that were on the sideline. They said Elliott said nothing to him. They was like, no, he didn't say anything to him. He was actually looking down at him because he didn't want to step on him. Right? Because he had to go back out on the field because he's on special teams. It's fourth down. Right? And I just thought that was one of those I sat back. And I know Nate James didn't turn it in. But to me, that's a feel for the game call. And I think the official missed the feel for the game part of it.
Pat Chambers used to say time and place, right? Time and place. As an official, you got to know in that set of circumstances, right? A critical third down stop in that moment, in that game, that in a situation and circumstance that 95% of the time those officials let go.
Yep.
To make that call, it's just, look, I wrote it yesterday. Franklin, after the game, said all the right stuff about discipline and, you can't do that, and right, all that stuff is fine publicly. But they were ticked. They were steamed over that call. And I get it. Some fans are, like the pearl clutching side of things of, this is such undisciplined. No, it's not. It happens all the time. You might not like it, but officials have a choice in that circumstance whether to call that or not. And 95% of the time, they don't. So the fact that they did in that, it changed the game in a lot of ways. Is it the reason that they lost? No. And nobody would argue that. But was it a critical thing that you have to take into account and acknowledge? Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Basketball gets rolling. Interesting what Mike's doing. He's got 3 of his returning guys with one group and 2 of his returning guys with another group, which I think is great because they can help bring along other people that are getting ingrained in the system. What's your thought on this team?
Yeah, I think he is intending to play a lot of guys.
Yep.
And have a deep bench and just throw a lot of stuff at the wall and see what sticks in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Right? You're going into the season, so you're not exactly sure what you have anyway until they play some other people.
Yep.
You got 5 guys coming back that have logged a ton of minutes, have a ton of success in their college careers, a ton of experience. But then you also got guys who haven't, right? Who either haven't done it at Penn State or even in the transfer portal really have more of a limited, right? They're not on. They didn't bring in seniors and 5th-year guys in the transfer portal. Right. They brought in sophomores and 1 junior.
Yep.
So there is gonna be a feeling out period of who plays well together. Who, right? Ace is going to be on the court. Yannick's going to be on the court.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of mix and matching that he can do, and I think that he intends to do over the next month and a half. Really, he intends to do it for the whole season. But at minimum, through the early part of the non-conference schedule to see what groups click together and which ones, generate the most positive results.
Always a pleasure. I know you don't like to brag about your Walker Cup championships, but that's okay. Appreciate it very much, though.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Nate Bauer on 3.com, Blue White Illustrated. Back with more in a moment here on News Radio 1070 WKOK. This half hour brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf. And online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, the best in new inventory. Great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. Terrific service department, whether it's inspections, routine, difficult, they handle it all. At Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. And time to bring in my good friend, the best in the business, Brad Nessler. Brad, great to hear from you.
Steve, how you doing, buddy? I understand you have a football game this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to show up, see how it goes. First of all, it's great to see you a couple weeks ago, by the way.
Yeah, no kidding. Always good to see you, my friend.
Yeah. All right. So you've got Oregon, Michigan this week, and it's going to be back-to-back weeks of seeing Oregon. So in seeing them last week in person, what stuck out to you about them that maybe a video would not show?
Great question, Steve, because I know you and I are the same. We like to see people in person before we make a judgment. You can watch all the film and all the games on TV, but when you go and see a team, meet the players, and then see them real life. I was impressed with their defense. I mean, they're loaded on offense. I think everybody knows that. But, the last 2 weeks, Illinois had a chance to score another time and failed. But still, 38-9 probably wasn't even indicative of how well Oregon's defense played. And the week before, they shut out Purdue, and I know that's Purdue. But, still 9 points in the last 2 weeks. Their defense is better than I thought they were. So that would be the biggest thing. I think, Dan Lanning's kind of tried to build around what he was used to, be it at Alabama or Georgia or the other places he's been, in that when he got there, he knew he had to build the offensive and defensive lines to kind of, look more Big Ten-ish, look more SEC-ish, if you will, whatever, and he's done that. They've got more depth now on the defensive side of the ball. Got a lot of those guys are transfer portal guys. I think they got some good ones portal-wise, that's for sure.
Yeah, and one of them is Dylan Gabriel, who they were able to get out of Oklahoma, had been in Central Florida before that. When you watch his command of what they do within that offense, what does he mean, not just what he brings physically to the table, but his command of it?
Yeah, great leadership. When he got there, first of all, everybody thinks, okay, he's going to put up the same kind of numbers as Bo Nix. And early in the season, he did. Now he is. Their statistics are very similar at this stage of the season. But, he got there, and after 2 previous stops, you have to have, I guess, relationships before his leadership. And so I think it took him a little while, not to win over his team necessarily, but just to do that, kind of ingratiate himself to the team, be part of the team, and not worry about being a leader until he started to lead. And now he's got it now. I mean, they're following him, and you can see just his command of the offense is better now than it was first couple weeks of the season. People looked at the Idaho game and said, oh, man, really? And then Boise State, really? And then you look at Boise State and you go, oh, wait a minute, they were pretty good. That was part of the problem. And now, I mean, I didn't think the ball was going to touch the ground last week a couple of times. He went 18 out of 26. He threw an interception. But there was a time where he was just playing catch with his guys. And he's got some guys to get it to, I'll tell you that. I mean, they're 4 wide receiver deep. They're 3 tight end deep. And they got 2 really good running backs. So, I mean, you look at it and you think of Oregon as flash and dash, and they can do that, but they can pound it on the ground, too, with Jordan James and Noah Whittington. So they got the whole package, man. I really believe that.
You and I will always fall back on experience, like something that we heard years ago from somebody that sticks with you. When I was talking to Joe Paterno when Penn State made the transition into the Big Ten, he says, Steve, we have to learn, at this point they were playing 8 conference games, 8 new opponents. He said it's a lot of off-season work. When you've talked to Dan Lanning, I don't know how much Lincoln Riley got into this, when you talk to him, has he talked at all about what it's taken for them to learn 9 new opponents? Well, they have to play Washington, but 8 new opponents.
Yeah, that's part of it. And the other part is, at least Lincoln Riley said this, Lanning didn't, but Lincoln said we kind of didn't know what we were getting into attrition-wise. It's week to week. You're just blasting Big Ten football. I mean, it's hard every week. And Lincoln Riley said, let's face it. I mean, when it was Pac-12, we knew we had some gimmies, and that we knew that there were kind of like breather weeks, and you have to be careful for those, obviously, to not get trapped. But just the physical toll I think it takes on everybody, and the fact that if you don't have depth, you're kind of screwed a little bit. If you don't have guys that back up your main people. So learning new opponents and learning that you have to be 2 and 3 deep at just about every position if you can get it that way, because you're going to get guys hurt and nicked along the way.
Well, then there's Michigan. The quarterback situation, when you look at that, what has it done to just set really almost everything back for them?
Well, I've never done a team 3 times in 1 year, and I've done 3 different quarterbacks, and that's about what I'm getting ready to do on Saturday. Because we had Orgy first, and then we had Tuttle a couple weeks ago against Illinois, and now we're getting Davis Warren. So, first of all, that's never happened. Second of all, I don't get why the cupboard was, and I don't want to take anything away from any of these kids. They all have their individual talents,
sure.
and they're trying their best. And Tuttle just physically had to retire because he's been around. He was in college twice as long as I was. So there comes a time where if you can't do it physically and you're 7 years in, and you're 25 years old, maybe it's time to go into coaching, which I think you'll probably do. They all have their talents, but I don't get why. They knew J.J. McCarthy was going to go pro. They knew Harbaugh was going to go to the pros.
Yeah.
How they left that cupboard so bare when there's got to be 20 guys in the country that would just salivate over being a quarterback at Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that wows me. I just don't get it. And, I've asked Coach Moore about it, and they give the same answer. Well, it was late in the cycle when Coach decided to go to the NFL, and, we were dealing with the portal, and we were dealing with recruiting, and we just missed it by a couple weeks. So, I mean, if you thought J.J. McCarthy was going to go pro, don't you have like 4 guys waiting in the wings somewhere along the line? I don't know. That's probably not the answer to the question you asked me, but that's the part that blows me away, that I'm going to see a third quarterback in 3 tries for Michigan, this weekend.
Yeah, but I see 3 in the same game. So I'm
you beat me on that
one, then. That's what I was doing when Prabula threw the touchdown pass on Saturday night. I had to start by saying Prabula was the quarterback because Warren had been the quarterback the previous 2 plays. It's just you have to keep track of it. It's okay.
How's Drew doing? He's practicing, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody saw him out there last night. So yeah. I think he's trending. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of Penn State when you saw him?
Well, a lot of good things, and then a lot of things where I said, wow, how'd you give up that many points to that team? But their tight end is insane. I mean, that was so much fun. I don't think I've had that much fun calling different plays from different spots by one guy. That was incredible. I mean, that was, not that they don't have a lot of great skill players on both sides of the ball, but just to watch one guy, I'm surprised he didn't play defense. He did everything else. It was unbelievable.
How have you felt about the quality of play in the Big Ten to this point? Because you've had to do, after all those SEC years, what about the quality of play in this conference to this stage, in your opinion?
I think it's really good. Obviously, like everybody else, I'm shocked what Indiana's doing, and God bless them. I mean, that city and that school could use something like that, and it's really been fun to watch. I wasn't expecting them to be there. I guess I expected Oregon to be what they are. I expected Penn State to be what you guys are. I still think Ohio State is as good as anybody. I don't know how they had an off game last week, and I don't know how much the loss to Oregon kind of like set them back psychologically, if you will, whatever. But I think they've got more draft choices probably on their team, at least on the defensive side of the ball, than probably anybody in the league. So I haven't seen everybody yet, but I've seen about half of them, and I'm probably going to see the same half down the stretch the rest of the way.
Right. In fact, because the USC reference, I feel like those 4 wideouts were in combination best I'd seen to this point until this week.
Yeah.
These 3 this week are better than those 4. That's just my opinion. So.
Yeah, the freshman he's insane, and Egbuka is one of the best leaders I think I've ever seen, both at practice, on the field. Just a class kid, and just being around him, you just walk away and you go, "Wow, wouldn't you like to have about 85 of those guys?" But they're as good as anybody. I think different USC's receivers, different kind of guys. But if I was a quarterback, I think I'd just as soon throw to the Ohio State people.
Do you? You and I both know fans are fans, and and they'll have opinions, and that's fine. That's what makes the game fun. Are you surprised at all at a guy that's lost 9 games total in his collegiate career, Ryan Day, catches as much flack as he does?
Yeah, I mean, and being around him, you can see it weighing on him. He said, to us, he goes, "You can't take a day off." I mean, it's hard to get the guy to smile because the pressure is incredible. If he wouldn't have lost to the teams he lost to, it probably wouldn't have mattered so much. But you lose to Michigan when you're in Columbus, and oh man, I wouldn't want to carry that weight around. And I can tell he's carrying it around, and I think he carries it really well. I mean, he doesn't complain about it. He doesn't throw any of his players under the bus and all that kind of stuff. He takes it, and he takes the swings and keeps on plugging away, and says all the right things. And I still think, this weekend will determine a lot. I'm not going to say anything because you guys got him on Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. I had to laugh at this. We don't know who has the game next week. We don't know. But when we were up in the box at USC, students came by, and I said, "Hey," I said, "you talk to him. He knows. You want to know the business? He'll tell you." And the first question he got was, "Have you ever done a whiteout?"
Yeah, that was a good one. I said, I think I've done 5 of them at least, and then I went on to say, and I've done some blackouts and some purple outs and some red outs and every other color I could think of.
Same here. Every time I turn around, I went down to Auburn, and you did the game. And they said, "It's an orange out." I said, "I've done blackouts, red outs, scarlet outs, maize outs, white outs." I said, "I'm all outed."
Yeah, I'm all outed too. I get to the point when they have one of those, I just worry that I'm not wearing a tie that's got the color of one of the teams in it. So I don't get beat up on Twitter for what I'm wearing.
Right. Oh, yeah, exactly. Because I'd said to them later, I said, "There's no doubt who's number 1 who's broadcast the most whiteouts because I've done them all. He's second." That's why I said Brad's second.
Oh, man.
Oh. Well, hey, have a great one this weekend. I hope it works out where I get to see you next week. But it's always a pleasure, my friend. You're the best.
Thanks, Steve, and I'll be watching. I will be watching you guys before I have to go to work. We'll always have a monitor in the booth for that noon game. Can't wait.
All right. Hey, thanks so much, Brad. Safe trip.
All right, buddy. See you later.
He is the best. I mean, and that's what I told the students. I said, "Look, that's the best in the business right there." We've known each other for 35 years or some number like that. And he's what's really great about him is that not only is he skilled and outstanding what he does, he's just down to earth, right? Just the kind of person you want to be around all the time. And that's who he is. Fabulous. This half hour brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia. Routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai. I opted for Ford. It was a great choice. Right? People always wonder, how much pressure do you get when you go into a dealership? I walked in, they said, "Hey, Steve, what are you looking for?" I said, I think I'm leaning toward Ford. I said, I've really done some research and looked at Explorer. I said, "Okay, hey, let's go over here. We have this one, this one, this one, and this one." That was the extent of the pressure. All right? At that point, he says, here, you want You want to take this one out, that one out? Then we discussed, okay, what does it have on it? There was a couple things I was looking for specifically. And believe it or not, one of them was navigation system. Because one of them I looked at, you need your phone as part of the navigation system, and the one I ended up getting had the navigation system built in. I just preferred that. Just a personal preference. So they worked with me to make sure I got into the vehicle I wanted to get in. That was it. Came to financing, came to getting the bumper-to-bumper. They worked everything out. Right? Process was great. It's going to be great for you. Ford, Kia, Hyundai. The new product lines are great. Now, what about pre-owned inventory? I took some time to just look around the lot. I was buying new no matter what. But I wanted to see, since I was on the lot, about pre-owned inventory. Look, they have a lot of it. And they go over with a fine-tooth comb. Thus, it eases the buying experience. And the service department, great. And Quick Lane is fabulous, by the way. But, whether it's inspections, routine, difficult, they handle it all. It's all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia. Routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf and online at sunburymotors.com. Here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.